Hello students, hoping that you are all doing good. Here I am going to present you the 15th video lecturing session on financial markets and services. This is second unit, that is non-banking financial intermediaries. Going further, the subtopic, that is the topic for this session's discussion, is hire purchase finance, meaning and its features and difference between hire purchase and lease financing. So this is what we are going to discuss in this session. We have got a quick recap on the previous class. In our previous session, we had discussed about meaning of merchant banking and the services offered by it. So you can go back to the video, review it, and you can memorize it. We'll move further. So this is the learning objective of the chapter. So this is common for the second, all the sessions of the second unit. We have already read it out. We move further. Session outcomes. So by the end of this particular session, you should be able to understand the meaning of hire purchase finance, outline the features of hire purchase finance, and distinguish between lease and hire purchase finance. So leasing is similar, the same, lease finance and hire purchase finance. You should be able to differentiate. So we move further. So we try to know the meaning of hire purchase finance. So hire purchase is a system wherein the seller of the goods delivers the goods to the buyer without transferring the legal ownership of the goods. Goods may be any assets. So seller transfers just, or we can say he just transfers the physical possession of the goods to the buyer on the down payment. The payment for the goods will be made by the buyer in installments. So initially buyer has to pay some percentage of the value of the asset as down payment, and the rest of the money will be paid in installments with interest. Meanwhile, if the buyer fails to pay the installments in between, the goods will be repossessed by the seller, and the payment made by the seller on the same so far will be treated as higher charges. So this this process we call it as repossession. I mean, whenever the buyer fails to pay the installments due, the asset will be repossessed, and the amount paid so far as installments will be forfeited and will be treated as higher charges. This is the meaning of hire purchase. So we'll move on to the features of hire purchase. We'll go one by one. So immediate possession of the goods. Asset is delivered to the purchaser immediately on paying the down payment. As I've already told you in the meaning itself, under hire purchase system, the goods are delivered to the buyer immediately without transferring the legal ownership on the payment of down payment. So that is one of the features of the hire purchase system. The next feature is payment by installments. So after paying the down payment, rest of the amount due will be paid in equal installments. As simple as that. We move to the next feature. Each installment is treated as higher charges. So until the payment of last installment due, every installment will be treated as higher charges. So only on the payment of last installment, the buyer will treat that the value of the asset has been fully paid and the legal ownership will be passed on to the buyer, until it is treated as every installment as higher charges. Next feature, every installment includes principal plus interest. Of course, each installment includes two components, that is principal amount plus interest for the service rendered. And next feature, transfer of ownership on the successful payment of the last installment due. The legal ownership of the asset will be transferred to the purchaser only on the successful payment of the last installment due. That is what this point says. The next feature, in case the buyer makes any default in the payment, the seller has the right to repossess the goods from the buyer and forfeit the amount already received, treating it as higher charges. This is also explained in the meaning itself. So, if you break down the meaning into simple components, simple words, you will get to know the features of the hire purchase. Meaning itself includes all these features. Anyhow, we move further. And another feature of it is the hirer has the right to terminate the agreement anytime before the ownership of the property is transferred to him. That is the seller, not the seller, the buyer, the person who hires or take the asset on hire purchase system has the right to terminate the agreement at any time before the ownership is passed to him by the seller. So, if he is not able to pay any installments, he has got two options, either to terminate or to keep quiet, and the hire vendor will come and pick up his vehicle and treat the installments paid so far will be as higher charges, or he himself can go to the hire vendor and say his stand, and he can terminate the agreement. So these are all the features of hire purchase system. Now we will look into the difference between hire purchase and lease financing. So we can differentiate the hire purchase and leasing based on some criteria. So the first column is about the criteria based on which both of these are differentiated. The very first criteria is ownership. So the ownership of the asset under hire purchase system lies with the financer who gives the money for the purchase of the asset, maybe the company or the separate financing company. And in case of leasing, the lessor, the one who gives the asset for lease, will be the owner. So based on the ownership criteria, under hire purchase system, the owner will be the hire vendor or the financer. In case of leasing, the lessor will be the, or the person who lets his property for lease will be the owner. And relationship, based on relationship, under hire purchase system, owner and hirer. In case of leasing, lessor and lessee. Okay. So buying, so based on buying criteria, owner purchases and supplies to the hirer, lessor purchases and supplies to the lessee. So who is the owner here? He may be the finance company. He purchases it and supplies it to the hirer. After the payment of hire charges, the hirer can become the owner. But in case of lessor, lessor himself is the owner and he just lets it for the lease. Compensation. The criteria is compensation. Under a hire purchase system, compensation includes down payment plus hire charges. Under leasing, the lease rentals are the compensations for using the asset. Repayment, hire charges paid along with the installments. So how the payments are made. Under leasing, lease rent paid periodically. This is how payment is made. Next we have is insurance component. Under hire purchase system, insurance is at owner's cost, that is the hire vendor's cost. And under leasing, insurance is at lessor's cost. Here also, the person who lets the property belongs to him. Again, in some cases, insurance may be the lessee's responsibility under the category of wet leasing. So next we have the claim of depreciation. Under hire purchase system, depreciation is claimed by the purchaser. Purchaser will show the depreciation in his books. In case of leasing, the lessor claims it because he is the owner. Even under hire purchase system, the hire vendor is the owner, but the depreciation will be claimed by the user of it, that is hire purchaser. Repairs and maintenance. Under hire purchase system, it is the sole responsibility of hire purchaser only. But in case of leasing, it depends on the type of the lease. If it is dry lease, it is the responsibility of the lessee. If it is wet lease, it is the responsibility of the lessor. We'll know in the further slides. We'll know what is the meaning of dry lease and wet lease. Further, we have arrived at multiple choice questions. The very first question goes like this: the ownership of goods under the hire purchase agreement belongs to the option. We have seller, seller and purchaser and financial institution. We'll see. It is the seller. As until the payment of last installment due, the ownership of the goods under hire purchase agreement belong to the seller. The second question is like this: in hire purchase, depreciation can be claimed by the hirer, lessor, lessee, lender. The right answer is hirer. Yes, under hire purchase system, the hirer claims the depreciation. We have already discussed about it in the one of the features of hire purchase system. And NSIC supplies machineries on hire purchase to what? First of all, what is NSIC? National Small Industries Corporation. NSIC stands for National Small Industries Corporation. It supplies the machineries on hire purchase to dash small scale industries, large scale industries, multinational companies. All of the above. The right answer is small scale industries. The fourth question: under hire purchase system, the agreement can be renewed, registered, terminated, endorsed. Right answer is terminated. As we have already discussed, the hirer can terminate the agreement at any point of time. Reasons may be different. He may not be able to pay the installments, or he may not be able to recover the money by using the asset. So whatsoever may be the reason, he can terminate before the vendor transfers the ownership to him. Next question: what is transfer to hirer under hire purchase system? The question should be slightly extended during the down payment or at the initial stage, because I'll explain why is it so. So ownership of the asset, possession of the assets, ownership and possession of the assets, none of these. The answer is possession of the assets. In order to match this answer, the question should be extended in such a way that what is transferred to the hirer under the hire purchase system on the payment of down payment or on making down payment, then the answer would be fit, because even ownership is also transferred to the hirer under hire purchase system on the last payment of last installment payment. So or we can modify the option itself as ownership and possession of the assets. So we just try to analyze the difference between the options and the questions. So for time being, we treat it as a possession of assets only. So to make this option as suitable, we will just modify a little bit. We will extend the question on the payment after the system on the payment of down payment. On making down payment, you have to add. So that is what I wanted to convey you. And these are the sources of references which I have referred. You can also refer this material and the sources websites which were mentioned, including textbooks. Thank you. We will meet in the next session.